Can you hear? Melissa, no. Can you turn on the, can someone turn on the thing? The mic's on? Okay. Do. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, definitely always ask because there's no reason for you to be here if you can't hear. Okay, good. All right. And always ask because there's no point otherwise. So, you know, and the only reason you have to ask is because it's not my habit to use this because I'm kind of loud. So, uh, but please, if you can't hear, ask me to use it. Now bring to mind the reason you decided to show up today. And rejoice that you're able to do so. All the causes and conditions that have to come together for us to talk about the Dharma. We can't even imagine all the different causes and conditions. The conditions are there. One of the causes is that you have to show up. I have to show up. We all have to show up. So really rejoice in your efforts and rejoice about whatever efforts you've done in the past, this life or previous lives, that created the cause to have this opportunity. It's really rare. How fortunate we are. So based on whatever reason you decided to show up today, generate a positive intention to use this time well. Allowing your mind to be open, your heart to be open, to bring a mind of curiosity. And can join it with the wish that it not just benefit your own mind, your own heart, but that it ripples out to benefit those around you, which can ripple out to benefit those around them. And in this way, ripple out to all sentient beings. So let's recite the four immeasurables. Oh, use the version on page 34, if you're wondering. Thanks, Nana. So remember, the four immeasurables are all about cultivating states of mind. You know, it's like a particular state of mind, like love or compassion or joy or equanimity, but trying to make it as fast as possible so it can, you know, embrace all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. All sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And then the refuge of bodhicitta prayer on page 98. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Was that 3 times?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So what are your thoughts today? You got the good comfy chair. I just like that chair because no, I like sitting like this actually. I really like it. But when I have to sit in a chair, I like that one because it somehow keeps your back in the right place for just a chair. Chairs aren't so good for our bodies. So what are your thoughts? Mine apparently are on chairs. So, hey, good to see you. All right. Nobody has any thoughts. That's good, maybe.
I have a thought.
Good.
Um, uh, 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 I have a son who is experiencing some hardship, some difficult moments, and I have been thinking a lot about how did that make me feel,
Mm-hmm.
and the pain that I feel in trying to kind of be there but separate from that at the same time. And so that's my thought. So that's one reason why I came here.
Okay. Thank you. Can you repeat your name for me?
My name
Mm-hmm. I can remember these, maybe someday. That's Margaret. Yeah. How many people struggle from that? Does everybody struggle a little bit from when they're watching their loved ones suffer and yet they can't fix it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not like when they were babies and you could, you figured out what the cries meant. You try, and you adapted your response according to what you had learned from their cries. But there comes a point at which you have to accept the suffering of even your children because we can't protect them from that. So what can help us? Yeah, go ahead.
So this is I thought that I actually had doing the meditation.
Good.
It was exactly about what you were saying, that when they are young, they're kids, very young, 19, right? But when they're kids, the suffering only would come from, let's say, diseases, or health related, while nowadays is more related to the choices they make in a way that is
frustrating.
It's not the frustrating because I understand it is a process, and that's Is healing has to go.
Very good.
It's not a frustration, it's really pain.
Yes, it is pain and suffering. So the Buddha said, this is the truth of suffering. Samsara is the nature of suffering. So one thing that we can give to others when they're suffering is our tolerance of the suffering. Being able to sit with the suffering of others is quite a skill, and it's really something that's quite a gift to give others. To not want to rush in and fix it, to not want to somehow, try to take them out of their moment of suffering, to just kind of like have a little moment of peace. It's, we have this desire for them to not suffer. And what's one of the main motivations of that? My own suffering. We want to stop worrying. We want to stop being in that pain, and so and that's understandable. So it's kind of this mixed suffering. It's the suffering that we genuinely feel for the burden of others, that we really wish them to be free of that. But we also have this suffering that we can take care of right away, which is our own suffering about that. That's just self-cherishing. If you're a parent, this is part of the deal, So learning to be able to sit with the truth of suffering without mixing it with, that feeling of please stop suffering so I can stop suffering, the attachment to not suffering, the attachment to the aversion of the discomfort of sitting with someone else's suffering.
The doctor on the interview on the radio yesterday talking about how to give a better interview to a patient. And her experience being a patient, the doctors are standing up and it gives the impression that they're ready to walk out the room, that they're very ready to walk out. So what she does, she asks gets permission from the patient, can I pull up a chair and sit next to you? So she has eye contact, has a more empathetic interview with the patient.
Okay.
Just being on the same eye level and having eye contact.
And the main thing is not trying to run away from their suffering. So we need to separate from the wish that we will be free of suffering if they would just stop making poor choices, stop, whatever it is, it's this. So we want to be able to recognize that we're making it worse by our self-concern, and that doesn't help anybody, doesn't help us, and it certainly doesn't help them. Being in the presence of just, someone's pain. It's like if somebody is on their deathbed, and you're sitting with them, you can't fix it, but your presence can really help. If you're not weeping and telling them to, please don't go, because that's all about you, So it's just, we can be guides. If you're a parent, of course you can be guides to, better choices, but they're adults, they grow up, they make their own choices, and we don't have control over that. So being able to love someone, given that we have no control, that sincere wish for them to be happy, and knowing that you can be there for them when they're not, that we can handle whatever comes up. Maybe not in the same room, it doesn't mean we have to, be present every step of their day. It just means that we don't run away from whatever they're experiencing. Excuse me while I drop the microphone. Very good at that. Yeah, right.
Eliminate attachment, various aspects of attachment. That's what's allowed. Give them compassion is truly helpful.
Yeah.
And the experience of their suffering and my suffering turn it into something positive without by eliminating that.
Yeah. And so being able to recognize that, and where does that come from? Where can we find that information?
What information?
The different attachments, the different layers of attachment we have that are interfering with being able to be purely compassionate, purely loving. It's really, go ahead, Jeff.
Where am I?
Well, yeah, that's my favorite thing. It's just, oh, where am I in this picture? But it's a process of letting yourself sit with the suffering and see, and then listening to what is coming up in your thoughts. You know,
So
introspection, it's an inward journey. You know, we have to find out, okay, what's clouding my view here? You know, so it's just about sitting, and then you know, all the suffering, you know, of this person comes up in our minds, and then we have arguments about it, don't we? You know, if they just quit doing that, okay, there's one attachment. You know, we're attached to being able to control what they do. We're attached to being right about it, like we really know. You know, because we actually really don't know. You know, and one of the ways to remember that is to think back on your own suffering through your life and what turned out to be beneficial. You know, what bad decisions did you make that led to wisdom later? You know, so we need to understand that our view is very narrow, you know, and it's just a brief little glimpse. So it's not complete. So thinking that we know what is best for someone else may be false. It just may not be true. But we do have that attachment. Did you want to say something? Okay. So this is, you know, we just have to sit with it and just uncover, oh, what am I clinging to? You know, so that you can get just down to that basic surrender. Oh my goodness, I'm suffering, they're suffering, you know, and it's hard. Yes.
Yeah, I was on the phone last night with a good friend of mine's son who's going through a lot, anxiety, depression. And I'm telling you, just listening to what I've heard so far has really helped me because, you know, I just remember thinking, what, like I was trying to control it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I know enough to kind of just sit back and listen, but I don't think I listened enough, okay, according to what works here, what we just talked about. So thank you so much for the topic, because he made me promise I was going to pull back tonight, and I'll know how to handle it, you know, from this perspective a lot better.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, this is what it's all about. It's like, okay, I really want to love this person, have compassion for this person. What does that really mean? You know, does it mean fixing it? Well, it might sometimes, you know, only you can't get in their minds and fix anything, you know. So, but if they need help hanging a curtain, maybe you can help with that, you know. But it's this, and it doesn't mean you have to listen for 3 days. You know, there's a reason therapist appointments are 50 minutes. There's a limit to what is useful. You know, when people start to repeat themselves, that's a clue. Okay, we've run that course, you know, becoming skillful at that, being able to transition from, you know, letting them express the suffering they're experiencing to, okay, let's just spend some time together, you know, doing something other than talking about the suffering. You know, that's tricky. And it all depends on the relationship and, you know, how you can move on. When I was at Plum Village, I probably shared this too many times. But anyway, when I was at Plum Village the first time, I wasn't a nun. And in fact, I was going through a divorce. And I got this letter from, I guess, my ex. I don't know that we were exes yet, but somewhere close to being exes, because he was telling me he was getting married, you know, and how much he had never loved me. You know, one of those really wonderful experiences, you know. So I read it and threw it in the fireplace because fortunately there was a fire burning. But I cried for 3 days straight. You know, I just couldn't. I mean, it was just like, it's one of the most senior nuns, Western nuns, came up to me and said, you know, and she'd listen, you know, compassionately. And then she goes, okay, well, that's enough now. I want you to go for a walk and notice things that are joyful. Yes. It was great. Yeah, it didn't stop me crying. I cried for 3 days, but it kept me from just wallowing in that painful moment, you know? So it was that one of those, you know, like, oh, okay. And she was absolutely right, you know. But, you know, we can't always tell someone, let's, you know, but we, you know, we might be able to say, let's go for a walk. Let's go do, you know, something else, you know. So, and you don't have to make it obvious that, okay, you need to get over this. You've talked long enough. So it isn't easy to navigate these situations and relationships. It's just not easy. But we can, you know, develop skills. But the first skill is to recognize where your layers of attachment and aversion are so that you can set those aside and really be able to just listen with that open heart and be able to tolerate the suffering, you know, because true suffering is what motivates us to get out of samsara. You know, if we don't recognize true suffering, why should we care whether we're in samsara or not? You know, we need to understand that there's a reason we want to change our minds, why we want to change our behavior of speech and body. So, you know, and this is the path of the Bodhisattva. You know, being able to just recognize. This is also why we have to become enlightened, because we don't know the perfect way to help people. We have too much ignorance. So these things can help us remember, I have more work to do, you know, and that's okay. Of course, we have more work to do. That's okay. You know, and we can't fix it. We can't remove other suffering. If we could remove other sufferings, the Buddhists would have done it for all of us. It isn't that way. It's an inner process. So we need to first notice what is going on with us, that inner mind that is about us, and trying to deal with that. And then be able to allow the true compassion for others to arise. You know, not the just, I mean, we can have self-compassion. That's also quite appropriate. You know, so when that desire to control, okay, I recognize that, you know, we can, you know, it's like Thich Nhat Hanh used to say, you know, oh, hello, friend, I know you. You know, so it's not like we have to hate these states of mind that arise. It's
there.
yeah. Oh, I shouldn't be surprised. So, it's not like that. We don't have, but we need to recognize how unuseful they are. They're not helping us. They're not helping others. So we want to, we can recognize it, think of, I'm not listening. You're not being helpful, and surrender to the fact that that's about you. And you're trying to work on how to develop the ability to be there for someone else. So, does that help? Okay.
A common idea in the medical field with physical pain is to have them distracted by having an intense conversation. Which is better, Coke or Pepsi, whatever it will be, and get them involved in that. And just because you're sawing their arm off, it's not going to hurt as much.
Yeah, that's how they pinch, when they give you a shot in your mouth. So, but you have to be skilled. Dentists learn that. They learn that, oh, by the way, if you kind of, pull the cheek out where you're going to have to give that shot and then pinch it a little, that's going to help distract the person from the pain of the needle, that these tools are useful. So with adults, you may not have that choice. You may not be able to just distract them. But it's because, you're not sitting there strapped down to the dental chair. I'm surprised they don't have seatbelts and restraints.
Now with all the painkillers, like the numbing agents.
Oh yeah, let me tell you, I had an endodontist. Is that the right person who does the root canals?
Yes.
Sit on my lap as she gave a shot into my tooth because she knew it wasn't dead. I went, whoa. So she just went up with me. So,
When was this?
this was when I had a root canal. So, and when you have a root canal, when it's loaded with infection, that shot can hurt. So yeah, it numbed it after the fact. Yeah, but don't forget that true suffering before the fact. So, but the point is that, yes, sometimes it's appropriate to help someone be pulled away from their physical pain. That's really difficult too, but that's why being a good companion when someone's suffering is such a good skill. I helped take care of a friend of mine who was dying from cancer, and she, we did all sorts of things. We, just, not talking about that. She really, it took her quite a long time to die. She was told she had 12 weeks to live, and it took like 5 years, So and it wasn't like those were necessarily a pleasant 5 years, but so the last couple of years when she was bedridden, I would go over there and we just, and the key thing was, of course, recognizing she's alive now. And just like always, just being with her as a living person, not as someone who's getting ready to die, or in the process of dying. And that's a skill. We can get, and what is our biggest obstacle to that? About what? What's the self-cherishing about? I'm uncomfortable. Well, yep, we can't fix it.
Concreteness of the eye.
The concreteness of the I, which is what? What's the concreteness of the I doing in that moment sometimes with our friends?
My friend.
Hmm?
My friend is.
Well, we don't want to lose that I.
Those feedback.
It's like, that's my friend. And I'm going to have to do without her. And we don't like that either. So yes, all this grasping at things existing in a way they cannot exist and letting that interfere with our relationship right now. The clinging to please don't go. The clinging to please don't hurt. It's not easy, and then there are those moments where you just burst into tears and you both just kind of go, yeah, that's what it's like, You know, you keep your heart open, which means it's vulnerable, but it's vulnerable anyway. You can try to shut those gates and you're still going to feel loss and grief and pain and, and all those truths and suffering. So really tackling this whole idea of, a self that's permanent, that's inherently me, we also do that with everyone else. That's why my child, is much bigger than your child suffering. Yeah.
So preparatory practices when somebody's dying, and you have the opportunity for that, it's not an accident that when those preparatory practices are eliminating the I and the attachment because you're focused on preparing them for a successful
Yeah.
transition. So that's
So
what they're
yeah.
really- what they're doing is eliminating those attachments.
Well,
Because you're focused on preparing them. And it's not about me anymore.
right. So
It
that's
should
one of
be
the,
about me.
yeah, that's one of the gifts of our teachers talking about how we can help prepare someone for death. It helps prepare us for not only our own death in the future, but loss. It prepares us for recognizing nothing's permanent. There is no self we're losing. We'll meet this person in the future somewhere. Who knows what they'll look like? Who knows what I'll look like? I might be the ant that they squish under their foot, So it's just this, and he said this being able to let go of the story we've got going on in this life about this person, about me with this person, all this kind of stuff, being able to recognize it for a tool to become enlightened.
Eventually we'll be enlightened.
Eventually we'll be enlightened and we'll never be alone. I'm kind of kidding. Anyway, we'll never need to be alone either. So, but that sense, yes, please. One.
All about
Yeah, that's one of the other attachments, isn't it? That other people's physical, suffering and dying is like, oh my God, it's true, we're gonna die. And we hide from that. So we put up barriers, and sometimes the barriers are we don't visit people in hospitals. I can't go there. See, my father was like that. He just, couldn't do that. And I understand, if we don't have any tools to prepare us for letting go or recognizing that any moment we could die, not just, not at a convenient set time. Like nowadays you can arrange to have a child by C-section on a particular day. Oh, we have an appointment at 10 o'clock on, blah, 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 blah. Death's not going to cooperate like that. No, we don't have a method for that.
Well, not in the US, Canada.
Unless we kill ourselves. Yeah, and so that's a different subject. But I bet you people who kill themselves because of that, through those methods, they didn't choose being sick. We might get to the point where we kind of go, okay, my life's great. This is a good time to die because I don't want to see what it's going to be like later. Who knows? We're crazy. That again is this desire to control. And to really, now if you believe there's absolutely nothing after that moment of death, when when the body dies, that's it. There's nothing left. Kind of makes sense that you would want to take charge of that. But if you don't know where you're going to be born, you may be having a much easier time of it where you are, no matter how much you're suffering. So, So it better to work on our mind, so that non-attachment. Okay, whenever. This is not easy stuff, obviously, but it's easier the less we grasp to a self, the more that we recognize, oh, this is like a dream. It's not permanent. Our friendships aren't permanent. Our lovers aren't permanent. Even our views aren't permanent. We're constantly changing our minds. There's nothing about us that stays the same. There isn't an essence to us that is us, that's me, Tendrin. That doesn't exist, which is the good news. So all that yucky stuff we discover when we look into our minds, we can stop with a lot of effort and time and motivation. We can fill ourselves with, habits that are, reflect good qualities. And we need to develop, last week I mentioned, this faith of conviction, that we need to develop confidence in the Buddha's teachings that say it's doable. You really can let go of grasping at the self. You really can let go of greed, of impatience, of anger. This is something that's actually doable. It's workable. We can work with whatever moment arises. So if a moment of anger arises, we can work with that. If that self, like when you look for where am I in this picture, we can work with that. In fact, we need to work with these things. We need to find them. We need to find those moments of greed or impatience or anger or all those other ones, so that we can cultivate all those moments of compassion, and love, and patience, wisdom. Amitabha Rinpoche used to hang up signs at retreats, that would just say things like, I don't know, can you think of one?
Be kind.
Be kind, or this tree is not permanent.
Right.
Just whatever, that all sentient beings matter, I mean, it's just like the pictures from Toshido. And all his and he had gazillions of stuffed animals, because people would give them, and then he'd write mantras on them, so. We have to work on reminding ourselves, oh, I'm just clinging. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. If I look at it, that there's no, there's nothing to cling to. So how can we do that? What's a mental process we can go when we realize, oh, there's my eye. Pause. Pausing's always good. Question it. Yeah. Like, who is this I think that's right here? I don't want this. Which eye? Did you, about 5 minutes ago, was that eye present? It's like amazing. That literally, I love the analogy with a river, that you can never look at the same river twice, not even blinking. It's not the same river. That's how we are. It's kind of wild. What's wild is we really think we can. Oh no, it's the same river. And this is where the Buddha said this mistaken idea that we have about how things exist is the source of our suffering. You know?
That's profound.
It is. Because it doesn't seem like a big deal, does it? Okay, so it's not the same river. Ugh. So what? You know, it still functions as a river. Yeah, and it's still is functioning as a river. It's a suitable thing to label a river. Okay, so when the river goes dry, is there a problem? It's no longer functioning as a river. Now what is it? A riverbed. Because we must make it something. You know, like it's gotta be something.
It has to have.
But we're surprised. You know, like climate change. They've been warning us about how erratic the weather was going to get, the hotter the earth gets for decades. I mean, I learned that in college, and I'm old. You know, I learned that. What is it? Like, 50 years ago. You know, and we're still like shocked. Well, we obviously weren't listening. You know, so remember this when you know that when you want proof of something without actually doing the work. We've done that with the planet, and look at what the work we have now is. We don't want our minds to be like that, you know, because that's what happens. And at the moment of our deaths, we grab, no, not me. And that's not the mind we want to have at the moment of death. We don't want to have that mind at any moment. No. So we do need to prepare ourselves. And one of the preparations, one of the opportunities we have is the suffering that we recognize in others. Oh, I don't have control over this. There is no I, that person. There's no inherent suffering in that person. There's no person in that person. I know it gets a little, you know, there's only a person if we label it. And so that's not very meaningful. It's just a name. So what are we really? If we're not, you know, if we're not this graspable self, if we're just like a river, what are we? Yes, Graziella.
It's not a direct answer to your question, but it's more like a question.
Okay, that's good
I
too.
have this conflict that keeps on coming up,
Okay.
which is the family, the long-term relationships, the marriages that last. And
until they don't.
yeah, but some of them do.
Oh, no, do they? Are your grandparents still married?
No,
Why?
because they die.
Because they die. There's nothing that lasts.
Somehow we seem to be invested. No, I'm not.
Yes, we are
I
invested in
have-
families. Yep.
Yeah, I have a conflict about it in my head, which it seems like long-lasting family. Well,
Okay. I heard something over here, and so no. So you said, can somebody repeat?
Said long-lasting
Families.
Long-lasting relation, familial relation.
Or something we want. Yeah, and you said something else, but somehow if there's no,
well, there is a conflict with what I'm learning. I know that it comes,
yeah,
but
What's the?
John, mute yourself.
What's the?
we're permanent. I like to accept that long-term relationships are sort of permanent.
Yeah, okay, so wait a minute. Let's not all answer all at once. John, did you have something to add to that?
Oh no, that was an accident. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay. So this is the crux of it. Why are we attached? Why do we cling? What do we think's in it for us? Yeah, of course. Think happiness is in it. And is there some truth to that?
Yes, eventually. for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, of course. Even really. See, this is what we do. The word they use in Buddhist text is reify. We make something real. So this long-term relationship, the happiness of a long-term relationship, blah, 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 is real. Which in Buddhism means we're making it exist inherently. It's of that nature, Are all long-lasting relationships pleasant? No, some people have long-lasting relationships that are toxic the whole time. Not every moment, obviously, So there's nothing inherent in a long-term relationship that says this is happiness. That's just an illusion, but it's a nice package. And we sell it constantly. Just watch Hallmark during Christmas.
Well, I guess it's the suffering of change. You got a mixture of the pleasure and the pleasure going away.
And this is a good point. Okay. So it's a suffering of change, the pleasure, there's the pleasure, and then there's the pleasure going away. Okay. Pleasure is not happiness. Having someone to snuggle up in a cold, dark night, which never happens here, folks. There's comfort there. There's safety there. There's, all that kind of stuff that we're imputing on this relationship. When we actually know, if we really look, relationships, good relationships, non-toxic, long-term relationships is the result of virtue. Yeah, companions in conventional existence are helpful. We all need each other, right? So that's not, well, we have to understand, though, they're the result of causes. And grasping isn't one of them. Grasping is that thing that causes jealousy. That kind of greed, covetousness. So we need to understand that what we hold in our heads as this idea of something that would be that would, what is it, complete us. That sense of, there's someone else out in the world that can, make us whole. Well, I mean, whatever, let's hope that whole implies that, but the point is we're not unwhole to begin with. We're not incomplete. Because that feeling of incompleteness comes from ignorance. It comes from wrong view. It comes from this grasping at things that don't exist, including ourselves. We're just a series of moments. That's all. Mental events, physical events. That's it. Just like the river. Nobody can see us twice either. It's kind of weird, huh? And it's only weird because we grasp at something that is us that sort of, no, not this changing body and mind, but you know, that other thing. You know, and we protect it. That's one of the reasons we seek companionship, you know. Until we decide, you know, to reject everybody, and then we know we seek non. Oh, we're a mess. So, yes, Elaine.
Don't we have a body for a reason? I mean, why have a body if we're just this big stream of consciousness?
Oh, you're acting like we didn't create a cause for a body. Elaine, what we are experiencing are the results of our past actions. The more we grasp, guess what? The more solid we get. That's just a physical manifestation. The mind and body are cooperative states. Okay. So the mind, they say that the very subtle mind, you know, its physical companion is the wind. That we need movement for the, you know, the mind moves to its objects. You know, Buddha's, their subtle minds everywhere, so it didn't have to go anyplace. It's already there. But so this gross body that we have, Elaine, is a result of our past actions. It's not inherent. We think we have to have it. And in conventional reality, in samsara, we have it because of we've created the cause for it. It doesn't, you know, it isn't because it's necessary to have these series of moments. Buddhists have series of moments. They don't need a body like this. They haven't created the cause for it. The thing that creates the cause is this grasping at a self. Buddhists don't have any of that. Yeah.
Could you say that labeling is somewhat grasping? Like if you say the river, as soon as you label it the river, you've kind of lost its essence.
I would say labeling is not the problem.
Okay.
It's that we label and then we impute something solid with it. We go way beyond the label and it's immediate. Have you ever bought something at a store and then, let's say you know, and then drop it on the way out of the store? You know, like that carton of eggs or the, you know, whatever. The way we feel in that moment is a clue to how we have now see that object, whatever it was, as mine. And we've lost something. You know, now it depends on what it is. My sister-in-law, not my sister-in-law, my stepsister, she got in 3 car accidents in her life, driving a new car off of a dealer's lot.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting karma.
Took it 3 times.
3. To what? I don't know, not buy a new car? I don't know. Let someone else drive it off the lot, you know? I remember when I bought my first car all by myself, I would not let my father come with me because I thought he had terrible luck with cars. I didn't use the word karma because I didn't know anything about the word karma, you know? So, and that car lasted forever, you know? It's just like, in fact, when I got rid of it, the mechanic's going, there's nothing wrong with this car. You know, but I want a new one. Which didn't last very long, you know, so there we go. But so, yeah.
So I guess the imputation happens so quickly after labeling that it seems that it's the labeling that is.
Yeah, we think it's the labeling that's the problem, but yeah.
It's that's why like the prayers too, sometimes the dedication, like the eye, which is completely empty, it's from its own side, which you say, which is completely empty, it's from its own side. So you're constantly.
So we're constantly, and Rinpoche does that. Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he's trying to constantly remind us there's nothing inherent there that you're praying to, that you're dedicating, you know, all our merits There's nothing solid, tangible, there's nothing permanent about them. We can even destroy our merits, so it's understanding that safety isn't in finding the relationships or the good family, that safety is a result from mental, actions of body, speech, and mind from the past. That's what creates safety. And eventually, when our wisdom becomes perfected, we won't be living in this kind of existence. We might appear here to help others, but we won't experience this like we do now when we impute and hold and do. Our label, like immediately, we're so imbued, which means our habits we've always grasped at the self since beginningless time. That's why Buddha's all started, just like where we are, We have to figure it out. The Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha figured it out and demonstrated that, from a human body, so that we could learn that, oh, maybe there's another option here, but it's not an inherently existent option. It's understanding that everything is fluid. It's, but we think as soon as book, it is inherently a book. It's a prayer book. Don't slap a prayer book. So, but this is why grasping at a view is also not a good idea. It has a bad result. What do we do in the name of views? War. We kill each other. Well, it's not just religion. Communism certainly had a view. Have nothing to do. It's dogma. I mean, I know we always use that with terms of religion, but it actually goes way beyond that. It is really not just religion. It's grasping at the view. So understanding that we're not losing anything when we let go of this self. It never was there. You're not giving something up. It didn't exist in the first place. It's like the river. There isn't some inherently existent river there. And then you go, oh, but the water, but yeah, the drops of water, what were they? They always been drops of water? No.
But the drop of water you see in this moment is not the drop of water you see in the next.
That's right.
The idea of,
And not only that, it was part of a cloud. Can you believe that on our planet, all our drops of water are just recycled? There's no new water being created. I think that's one of the coolest things to contemplate. That we're drinking the same water as Cleopatra. And we wonder why it's dirty. Care of our water matters. It's all we got. But that's this samsaric experience. That's part of our, we've created the cause to live on a planet like this. And there's so many good things about this planet, aren't they? It provides so much for us, for living beings on this planet. So we created the cause for that. And we can also create the cause for none of it to be here. Yeah, exactly. So, and it's not just those people. It's not just the corporations who made poor choices, not just the people who didn't understand that the algae that grows around trees feeds them, because there was a point when farmers thought, oh, if we just remove all that, everything will thrive. And then they discovered, oh, you're taking away their food. but that takes wisdom, takes knowledge, wisdom, investigation, you know. So it's not just those people, you know, it's all of us, you know, so. And so that's one of those things that we want to remember. We're all in this, we are interdependent. We're all part of this, you know. So we want to help each other. We want to have true compassion, you know, not the controlling attachment. You know, it's like, I really didn't want us to keep, you know, destroying the planet for two main reasons. You know what it is. You know, I want air conditioning to continue to exist, and I want toilet paper to continue to exist. Those are my two main things. You know, it's like, oh, don't ask me to give up air conditioning. I just can't imagine that. And now I'm supposed to buy bamboo toilet paper, you know. And then there's the dilemma: is water better? You know, there are all these dilemmas. So anyway. So we need to be able to recognize that I that arises, that goes, yeah, but I don't want to have to live like that. I don't want to have to do this. I don't want to have to create the political will. I don't want to have to, yeah.
Listen, I think it's how I'm looking at this, that you are really not able to free yourself from an aspect of yours that you don't really recognize existing. So I think that a lot of what you're saying about recognizing the I is a key step into really being able to go beyond that.
Yes, I mean, that's our whole problem, is this false view of the I, because it's not obviously just our I. We see it in all, you know, we grasp the I's of everything that we label an I. We also grasp it all phenomena, you know, that, you know, that and well, fortunately, with phenomena like this, it's really easy for us to see that it's a result, you know, and then we have to recognize that it's also a cause. That's hopefully it'll be a cause of our enlightenment. But it's also, you know, it will eventually disintegrate, you know, and hopefully go back to the earth, except for the covers, because, you know, I think they're probably plastic. I mean, not completely plastic coated.
They're already starting to disintegrate.
Yes, in fact, you know, and this thing that probably won't disintegrate, that holds it, doesn't actually hold it together, but, you know, hey. So whatever, but you know, the point.
It's good for communication. It's like,
It isn't, yeah, this isn't, so we don't label this as bad either. It's not inherently bad, even the plasticky cover on it, you know. Nothing is inherent.
The value you give.
Not even, we impute onto things something that doesn't exist at all. And one of them is this whole world. So what happens if every sentient being on this planet gets its act together and, you know, cleans up its mind, you know, and is liberated?
we don't need it.
This planet won't be here. They'll have no cause. Really? That's how big of a view this is. Will we all be alone, floating in space? Hopefully.
That's your desire.
Apparently people have the desire to be.
There is no chat.
The rest of us, yeah, Makai and Jeff.
Yeah, and those who have aversion will still be on this planet. So this is what's so hilarious. And it's understandable. Because we do get comfort and pleasure and a feeling of security and all this stuff from some of the stories we tell ourselves, and because it's true, we need companions on the path. We need it's not that it's inherently bad. It's the grasping as if there is an inherent friend, an inherent enemy, an inherent lover, an inherent, whatever cup. That's the mistake. And so it's when we're suffering or when we're trying to deal with someone else's suffering, that's when we can start to, if we sit with it, we can start to see how we're making it more, like we really think that our children's suffering has got to stop, for their happiness as well as our happiness, That's only true in the big, big view. Yeah, being enlightened, then there won't be any suffering. It's a mistake of the mind, a habit of mind. It isn't like inherent to the mind either. So the more that we can think, oh, that person's not inherently that person, oh, this person I see in the mirror that I hold on to is me. First of all, it's not in the mirror. We all kind of get that. Well, there's no permanent, independent, it's, me over here that I label me.
Does the Dalai Lama inherently exist?
No. Isn't that a shame? Even Buddhas don't inherently exist because it's not possible. That's an impossible way of existence. It's not possible. Our minds are eternal. Our consciousness is eternal. That's what goes from life to life to life to life to life. That's why Buddhists can remember all their past lives, except they kind of get tired with that game. Don't bother to keep going back. They have other things to do with time. I'm kidding. Anyway, so it's this, if we're worried about not existing, we can let go of that worry because we've always existed. If we want to exist without suffering, we need to work on our minds so that the experience we have is not samsaric, so we can be liberated from this type of existence. And that requires us to keep thinking about this process of labeling something and then making that so sticky, we think that it is that. I mean, I don't know how to explain it any other way. If we put something on it that is, I mean, if we think about it, we know it's not true, but we really do interact with everything in that way, and we're surprised when things change. Not little bitty changes that, when we look at it, although we are. Anybody looked in the mirror and gone, oh, that's old skin. Oh, those are my mother's hands. And it's like, yeah, well, so.
Do you remember the whole story, that story about the monk in the meditation on emptiness, and then he had like a brief glimpse and then came back and was like feeling, do you know that story?
No. If you find it, bring it.
No.
Yeah, there's so many stories.
It was, in essence, it was about, in meditation, he had a glimpse of emptiness, of reality, and then he it shocked him so much that when he became aware of his body again, he was feeling.
He
to make
was
sure
looking,
that he-
oh, he's still here.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Well, and this is the
Shock-
thing.
Shocking. even
So
then.
don't, yeah, and then what really shocked me was when Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, you gotta go through that fear.
Yeah.
You know, because emptiness doesn't mean we don't exist. It's how we exist. Emptiness is not a place. Emptiness is a quality of being
That we just don't see.
that we don't experience even. We impute something on existence that isn't there. You know, this sense of a self that is somehow more than a series of moments. You know, the mountain is a series of moments. You know, everything is a series of moments. But as everything arises, you know, disintegrates. Even our minds, every moment of mind, you know. We all know from the study of the physical universe that what we see as solid and tangible and all is mostly space. You know, we see something that's not changing, but it's changing like a lot in every moment. It's not, you know, and we need to understand the import of that. You know, it's like understanding, like we can get all bogged down and talk us about karma and oh, cause of blah, 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 and get all, oh, please, you know. But the main point is, what's the consequence of that? What's the consequence of thinking everything has a cause? You know, that causes and effects, and everything becomes a cause, you know, like there's an effect, and then that effect is a cause for the next moment. What is the consequence of that? What really matters about understanding karma?
That we create the cause for.
And what does that mean? We create the cause for what we're experiencing. So who's in control?
We are.
We are.
That's the consequence.
We're seeking control. That we can control. You know?
Sometimes.
No, we can control it. We often, our habit energy just kicks in. So that's why it takes effort and practice and repetitiveness. You know? Oh, it's hilarious.
We seek that we go on control is what drives us crazy. Ultimately,
But we don't want to have to control. Don't tell me I have to be under control. You know? Well, all we need to do is look at our minds and create good habits of mind, because our actions of speech and body will follow that. The key is how we're thinking. We start often with the gross, you know, like physical expression, you know, like, so we learn early, because kids, you see it with kids, you know, that when you're mad, you can't hit, you know, so you learn to stop at least the hitting. And then maybe you learn to stop the yelling. You know, now we want to learn to stop the thinking. You know, we want to understand it is not to our benefit to separate ourselves from others through anger, that's not beneficial. And it doesn't lead to anything except more suffering. Because thinking that way means you will encounter others who are thinking that way about you. And what is that a condition for? To be harmed. You know, so the more that we can have a mind that has no habit energy that says harm, we're creating the cause to have no one harm us.
Would you say that again?
I don't think so. Well, so is it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So we need to develop, we want to develop a mind that never, it has no harm in it, that we've completely abandoned the mind that wishes to harm, that even has the thought, I wouldn't mind if they fell into a hole, whatever. I used to think, I wouldn't mind if sharks just didn't exist. So that's better than thinking, I wouldn't mind killing all the sharks. Huge difference there.
So it's the same thing as being afraid of getting harmed.
You don't have to fear being harmed if you don't have any harm. Because what happens when someone harms you? If you have that kind of mind, what do? Well, that's if you have harm in your mind. If you do not have any harm, let's think the opposite. I know it's unimaginable. So what happens if you develop the habit of non-harm when someone harms you? Not a response.
Well,
You feel bad for
You
them.
can't be
Why? Why can't you be harmed?
because you don't exist. I mean, you exist, but you don't exist inherently. So they're harming something that doesn't inherently exist. They
Okay.
cut off your arm or they kill you.
You know that doesn't actually do anything. You still exist, but beyond that, what is your perception? Say you're not liberated yet, you're not enlightened yet, but you've really become a bodhisattva and you have no mind of harm.
You might feel that they're planting seeds for their own future suffering.
Yeah.
Or you may perceive it as like an opportunity, like I'm exhausting negative karma.
Yeah, so you perceive it differently, don't you? You may not see it. In fact, your mind just doesn't go there. You don't go to any thought, I'm being harmed. It's beyond that. All you're perceiving is that someone else is suffering. And that's a world of difference. You're not having this sense of I in there. It's a natural response. It's cause and effect. It's not just it's natural in the sense that we have that capacity. We don't have to create a new capacity. We already have the capacity that wants to help. Well, we're making it with this mind that wants to do no harm, or like when you're a bodhisattva mind, is that it's what am I trying to say here? Help me out here, Rome. What was I going to go? Where was I going to go? The reason we can become liberated, become enlightened, escape from samsara is because we have all the capacity to do it. Our minds can be trained in either direction. We can train it to be more negative and we can train it to be more positive. Why? Because we have the basis for it. Nobody has to come along and teach us to be helpful. We have that skill. We may not know how to use it, but small children will help. Little crawly babies will try to help. We have that. We come that way. So it's not, so it's natural in that sense. It's not, I don't know what, the only reason I'm fighting the word natural is it's not something that, it's not learned. Yeah.
My aunt did
It doesn't matter. I'm just getting caught up in this word.
My aunt died, my father said that woman never had an unkind word to say about anybody. I wish they could say about me.
Me too. Well, we do know people like that. They may not be perfect, but we do know people that seem to practice, that their minds are trained that way. So we want to go there. We want to see people like that and go, oh, I'd like to be more like that. Not, how'd they do it? I don't have time for this. They must be too Pollyanna-ish, We don't even like people that are like that. You know, that's not a good sign. You know, we want, and what is that about, of course? That aversion to people who, you know, are always kind, nice, friendly. Huh?
Is it envy?
Of course it's envy. You know, and we do all sorts of funny we twist things, you know. We make it like, oh, people like who are like that aren't sincere. It's not possible to be sincerely nice all the time. So they're just faking it. I hate people who are phony. We do this stuff to our minds. You know, instead of rejoicing and just thinking, wow, I love being around this person, we make it a bad quality because we think we can't do it because it doesn't feel natural to us. But you remove this sense of I, it is in fact what's natural to us. It's our grasping the I that distorts everything. And this is not an easy thing to give up. We have to work at it.
We feel that collective consciousness should be like that.
Okay, so we wouldn't use the term collective consciousness in the sense of, we have collective karma, in the sense that all of us who are on this planet have a collective karma. We've all created a similar cause to have this result, okay? We all, obviously it's different, isn't it? Where you're born, where you know, what your experiences are. I would say it's the opposite of that. It's like chicken or egg. What came first was the grasping at the eye. What came second was a body that needed to be protected. We have such a gross body and it's fragile, isn't it? You know, so this body can be killed. You know, but we have this kind of body because we grasp so tightly at a sense of self. So it's definitely the chicken or egg problem. But if you go beyond, you know, this experience, my understanding of the Dharma is that this experience we're happening is the result of our causes and conditions, our ignorance, our past actions, our delusions, our ignorance. You know, so it's not that evolution in this planet, you know, create these habits of mind. It's the opposite. We create this kind of planet, this kind of existence because of our habits of mind. And there are lots of good stuff. You know, as humans, well, laughter. Humans have laughter. That's kind of cool. The air conditioning is really important. But I created the cause for the heat. And not only did I create the cause for the heat and the humidity, I created the cause to hate it. That's my problem, entirely my problem. Yeah. You know, where have I lived my whole life? In hot, humid places. I'm clearly not exhausting this karma. I'm not purifying it, and I'm not even exhausting it. I'm just creating the cause for more hot, humid states. So this is, like, when we say, what is it? What's insanity? Expecting a different result. I'm going to be born in the hot humid hells. What is this? This is like really foolish on my part. So, see, it's an effort. And I'm obviously too lazy to make that effort with this particular issue in my life. So, which is really stupid. Anyway. But so you see what I mean? It's like, it's the reverse. We look at everything as like, oh, yeah, but it's just because my parents, they raised me this way. Which parents? This life, last life?
The ones you picked.
100. Yes, the ones you picked. That's the key. Oh, I'm attracted to that. That happened. So, yeah. And it can be negative. Our clinging to aversion Same result. You get more of it. And this isn't from some outside force. This is, like this earth, all that's the collective force of our past actions of body, speech, and mind. It's time's up. All right. Lots to think about. So, okay. So let's rejoice that, hey, we spent some interesting time trying to understand, this stuff, and we have an intention to do it to help us be kinder beings, more loving, more compassionate, So we have that wish to benefit. That's so cool. So we can be very, very happy about that. So, so now let's dedicate the positive results of these positive efforts to go benefit others. So, take that rejoicing in all those merits and everybody else's merits, and then we have lots of merits to dedicate. Yes, it's 2:46. We're waiting for the people who need to open a book. Are we there? Okay. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, attain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases that there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then page 244, I think. Or his long life of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And then the prayer to request Lama's, the swift reincarnation of Lama's our recognition of the swift. Okay, so that's I don't know what page it is.
234. 294.
Thank you. Is that it? You find the copy of it on page 234. If you don't, leave it out so that we can paste it in there.
Okay.
Thank you. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losam father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged.
incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of reincarnation swiftly beam and glory for fortunate disciples. Hey. So folks, at home, if I didn't answer any of your questions or didn't notice questions or whatever, please email me. I'm tenfrom108@yahoo.com. Not hard to find me. So announcements, we do have purification class on Thursday night at 7. We have yoga this week. We have yoga on Tuesdays, the chair yoga. People were not coming for the traditional all level yoga, so that is no longer happening. The purification on Thursdays. We have Paula Chichester coming. There'll be something on the website soon about that. And an
That's
email.
not till March though, isn't it?
March, yeah. And then
Okay.
in April, we've got Venerable Amy. Well, and at Easter, that's a go, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing, do people have Friday or Monday off in Florida on Easter weekend?
I think it depends on.
No.
It's not a national holiday, no.
if
No,
you
it's
work-
not a national holiday, but most states have it.
No.
No,
Florida doesn't.
I don't get either
that's
one.
really weird
No,
when
I
you
never
think about it.
got a day off like that.
Yeah.
Really?
Right. Oh, yes, yes.
If in North Carolina, we have it for March Madness. So we can watch the finals of the NCAA championship.
Because I don't think we should get it.
I know it is.
Yeah, I'm spoiled rotten. Okay, so Easter might not be the best time, but we're gonna do it anyway. So we're gonna, we'll have to just do it on Saturday and
Or maybe, so Don and Venerable Tinder and I will figure out maybe even starting on Friday afternoon, evening. I don't know. We'll see. It's coming though. We had Yangtze Rinpoche was here and gave the Medicine Buddha empowerment, and not that you have to have had it to come to this.
oh no, yeah,
But so we'll do some Medicine Buddha.
sadhana.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do the sadhana, which is lovely. And if you were at the empowerment, then you kind of have a taste of what it's like, with the visualizations and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so we'll be an all-day practice on Saturday is apparently, and we'll figure all the other stuff out.
Here, right?
Yeah, and that's March also,
Yeah.
because Easter's in March, the last weekend of March.
Someone's asking if it'll be online. Does that include the use of bells, of the bell and door?
It does, I'm not worried. So what if they lose the sound for a few seconds? I mean, I'm sorry, but it's like, I'm really grateful that there are pushes and things online because,
Yeah.
so anyway,
So that's a yes.
Yeah, we can do it. All right.
yeah, we can do it. And, I don't think there are many bells in it. So,
It's just a technical thing with Zoom, but
Yeah.
But anyway, it's not the end of the world.
yeah, and don't let us forget about it because I wanted to ask, I have some questions about it. Okay. So we'll just make it a Saturday practice if that's all that we've got. And that's fine. That just means we just have to be really determined on Saturday to show up and,
Right. Sure.
So
So those are the main things coming up. Please explore membership opportunities online. We are solely supported by
y'all's
donations.
donation.
So, yeah, we actually, some people think because we're an FPMT center that FPMT is supporting us. They do support us in many ways, but financially is not one of those ways. We actually pay dues to be part of that. So it's,
Yeah. So as always, just like everything else, money comes, money goes.
right. So if you're able to, it's helpful.
So anyway, yeah. So, and there'll be more, the SPC group is getting it together to figure out what the spiritual program will be in February, April, March, whatever. I don't know. So thank you very much. Thanks for your participation. Thanks for your insights. Thanks for all of it. So, thank you guys at home, and don't forget,
Thank you,
you can always.
Tanya. Thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Venerable
Christina.
Tandem. Yeah, it was wonderful. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Nana.